Today, I want to give you a breakdown of my entire HBS application so you can have some benchmark for what metrics you need to get into Harvard Business School. Of course, there's no guarantee that anyone can get in based off metrics alone, so make sure you consider what you write in your essays very seriously and deeply. I already have a bunch of videos about essay writing and how to convince HBS that you're a good fit, so we're not going to go over that today. But these are the three topics I do want to cover today. First, all the numbers, such as test scores, GPA, and how many drafts of each essay that I wrote. Second, my background and experience. And third, my overall application strategy. Great, let's get into some numbers. My undergrad GPA was a 3.78 on a 4.0 scale. All I can say that is it was good enough to get into HBS, or the rest of my application made up for it. I studied mechanical engineering with a business minor, in which I did not learn anything in that minor. Mechanical engineering is not the easiest major, but I really loved it. And I also went to a large public state school, and they did not curve the classes. So that GPA is not inflated. One other thing from undergrad that I did include in my application was that I was the president of the Engineering Honors Oregon campus. At some point, I was also the VP and historian, but I left those out, and I did not write about my presidency in my essays. I just didn't feel like it was the right fit. I also took the GRE back when it had a writing component. I got a 167 on quant, a 160 on verbal, and a 4.5 on writing. When I was applying to HBS, these scores were about average, so I figured I'd give it a chance and apply. The reason I chose the GRE over the GMAT is because back when I took the test, I did not know what programs I wanted to apply to. I was thinking maybe a master's in engineering, such as robotics, or maybe a master's in AI and data science. So, to be honest, business school was never really on the radar. So, I simply took the test that most STEM master's programs required. Knowing what my classmates tell me now, the GMAT is more quant heavy, and since my strength is in math and science, I might have done marginally better on the GMAT compared to the GRE, but that's neither here nor there. Because when I decided to apply to business school, I did not want to have to study and take a new test, especially if my score might be good enough. Anyway, if you want to map my GRE score to a GMAT score, Perplexity says that apparently there is a formula to convert it. Who would have known? But because I like formulas, I'll put it up here on the screen. So if you do that calculation, it's about a 700 to a 710 classic GMAT score, which is around a mid to high 600s on the new GMAT focus scale, according to the AI math. I didn't do the math, sorry guys. I don't really have a recommendation for how or how long to study for the test because my style is to just buy a book and work through it. So I did that for a month and I took the test. I wasn't super satisfied with my score after taking it, but because I didn't have a specific program that I was aiming for, I just kind of let it be. But good for you. There are a lot of opinions on how to study most effectively here on YouTube. So just either do your tried and true method or choose a method that sounds like something you'd be able to accomplish. Some other useful information. So I went to public school growing up, no prep schools, and attended a large public state university. I am not a first generation college student, and I am the first in my family to go to Harvard. So I am not a legacy admit. I had 4 drafts of my business minded essay, 6 drafts of my leadership focused essay, and 5 drafts of my growth oriented essay. Honestly, that's fewer drafts than I remembered having. Anyway, so that wraps up some numbers. Let's move on to my job and previous experience. I only had one job after college, and I did not do the career switching thing. Of course, there's pros and cons to that, but up until the end, I felt challenged and that I was given plenty of opportunities to grow. So I didn't feel the need to hop around. So, what was my job exactly? Well, I can give you my abbreviated elevator pitch. And the only reason why it's abbreviated is not because I want to hide some nugget of juicy information. It's literally because the back half of the pitch I usually tailor for whatever job I'm interviewing for. So it goes like this. I love creative problem solving, and that is why I decided to pursue engineering. After graduating, I started as a robotics engineer at a large industrial company. My job was to figure out how to use robots to take people out of harm's way. So, not your typical assembly line robots. I scouted, piloted, and implemented technology solutions for maintenance and inspection applications. And when there was no option available on the market, I would build the robot from scratch. However, I quickly saw the impact that technology could have was highly dependent on the scale strategy. So that's why I want to get my MBA to learn more about businesses and how to be an effective leader who can drive change. Okay, so that was my job in a nutshell. Another note about jobs. Contrary to popular opinion and the press, HBS does not really care if you know what you want to do post MBA. Or even if they do care, they do know that you will probably change your mind once you have access to all the resources at Harvard Business School. So don't put too much pressure on yourself there. If you listen to my essays, I'm pretty indecisive and vague about the job I want to do, but I am much more clear about the impact I want to have. Because HBS is so impact focused, this is where I decided to spend my time and energy. That logic of, oh, the press is saying HBS students can't find jobs, so I need to know what kind of job I want, is false and honestly pretty arbitrary. The problem facing HBS students is that there are way too many options and we have way too many interests. So it's hard to pick just one offer out of the many offers we receive. All right, it's time for the application strategy. Well, I kind of already covered the writing in this video, but this is what I did overall. I only had 1 month to apply between deciding to apply around Thanksgiving and the due date around 2. And I only applied to HBS and Wharton because that's all I had time for before the M7 apps were due. My thinking was if I didn't get into those, it wasn't worth it for me to go to mid tier schools, and I could just apply to schools in Texas, which either had rolling admissions or more rounds that lasted until June. Honestly, I was just trying to be realistic because I didn't get into any Ivy League schools when I applied for undergrad, so I didn't think Harvard would necessarily take me this time either. I really thought the Ivies and other elite schools like Stanford and MIT just fed each other and it was just all circular trading of students. Anyway, the first thing I did was pick who I wanted to write my rec letters, and that was pretty straightforward, and then immediately ask them because if I only had a month, they only had a month. Then I moved on to brainstorming for my essays, collecting the documentation I needed, such as my undergrad transcript and GRE scores, and I spent about 25% of my remaining time brainstorming what I wanted to write for my essays. And this is the most critical part. Don't skip it. I would recommend writing down the answers to this question. I also wrote down any other major milestones in my life that I felt like would make a good story. So after I did that, I worked on stringing those answers and ideas together to make my story make sense. I really believe that anybody can get into HBS if you write a good enough essay. HBS wants to admit people who know who they are and what kind of impact they want to leave on the world. If you read their admissions letter, impact is the most important thing. Actually, let me just read it to you. Dear HBS Cat Lady, congratulations. The answer is yes. We're delighted to offer you admission into the MBA class of 2027. The admissions board evaluates thousands of applications, and you stood out as an exceptional leader who will make a positive difference in the world. We hope you feel proud and excited about this accomplishment and grateful to those who helped you along your journey. Harvard Business School is a place that inspires true change and lasting impact, a place where every voice matters. Getting to know you better over the past few months, we are confident that your classmates will benefit from your perspective and you will grow from theirs. Yeah, so making a positive difference in the world, inspiring true change and lasting impact, and others benefiting from your experience while you grow from theirs. That is what your essays need to convey. I already revealed my essays. They're all within the first 3 videos I uploaded on my channel, so you can either filter by oldest video and watch those, or click on my HBS application playlist and listen to all my thoughts about the application process. I only had 4 people read over my essays and give me some feedback, and once I felt like I was done, I just submitted it. I don't like waiting until the last minute to submit stuff because everybody probably is, and I don't want the server to crash on me. That last minute stress is something I just don't want to deal with. So I submitted my application 4 days early, wiped my hands clean, and moved on with my life. To be honest, I didn't know that there was an interview round, and I didn't think I would get in, so I was pretty relaxed once the application was sent off. I only became stressed after my interview when I felt like I bombed it. So that's that. Hopefully, the context around my application is helpful at least and encouraging at most. And if that's the case, please consider liking and subscribing. I know there are a lot of questions out there about the Harvard Business School application, and although I don't have an 8 ball to tell you your destiny, if you comment a question, I will do my best to answer it. Best of luck if you're considering applying to HBS. Until next time, bye guys.